So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the AQA GCSE Maths Paper 2 Calculator paper of June 2020. So let's get started on this June 2020 Higher Paper 2 paper. So looking at the very first question, it says which of these is a correct identity. Now typically you would think all of them are identities because it's got the identity symbol of three little lines. However, an identity is where the left hand side is algebraically the same as the right hand side. So here you can see that the only one that works for that is going to be our first option. For question 2, it says that, because I'll just go back to this, as you can see the others are all equations but with the identity symbol. With question 2, it says circle the reason why these triangles are congruent. So this is a side, this is a side, and this is an angle. This is a side, this is a side, and that's an angle. So it's going to be an SAS definition or proof. So with question 3, it says circle the number that is written in standard form, and that is going to be this one here. And reason for this is because here our A is not a value between 1 and 10. Here our power is a decimal, and here our first number is not a number between 1 and 10. And looking at question 4, it says circle the expression that has the largest value when A is less than -1. Well, the smallest value it can be, let's just go for, is -1. So here if we've got a half times -1 is going to be minus 0.5. That's going to be -1. This is going to be -1 times -1 is going to give me an answer of 1. And here we're going to have -1 times -1 times -1, which is -1. So which expression is going to give me the biggest answer? It's going to be A squared. So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the AQA GCSE Maths Paper 2 Calculator paper of June 2020. So let's get started on this June 2020 Higher Paper 2 paper. So looking at the very first question, it says which of these is a correct identity. Now typically you would think all of them are identities because it's got the identity symbol of three little lines. However, an identity is where the left hand side is algebraically the same as the right hand side. So here you can see that the only one that works for that is going to be our first option. For question 2, it says that, because I'll just go back to this, as you can see the others are all equations but with the identity symbol. With question 2, it says circle the reason why these triangles are congruent. So this is a side, this is a side, and this is an angle. This is a side, this is a side, and that's an angle. So it's going to be an SAS definition or proof. So with question 3, it says circle the number that is written in standard form, and that is going to be this one here. And reason for this is because here our A is not a value between 1 and 10. Here our power is a decimal, and here our first number is not a number between 1 and 10. Question 4, it says circle the expression that has the largest value when A is less than -1. So let's work out what the smallest number is actually be. So let's imagine that it's -2. So if A equals -2, then this is going to equal -4. This is going to be -2. This is going to be +4, and this is going to be -8. So our correct answer we should have is A cubed. For question 5, it says the time students spend watching TV is recorded. The table shows the average daily time per student each year from 2012 to 2019. The time series graph is drawn to represent the data. The first 4 points are plotted. And what we need to do is complete the graph for part A. So for this, what I need to do is zoom out a little bit and watch it reset. Just go back to this question and let's have a look at plotting. Now, regards to this, it's always important that you look at what the previous plots are doing. So you can see here that the plots on the x-axis are plotted on the year. So 216 is at 113. So again, we're looking at in between there, and you want to try and not do dots or crosses like huge ones, so it makes it difficult for you to then see. 2017 is at 100, so that's going to be there. 2018 is at 90, and 2019 is at 82, which is just there. And then what I then need to do is join those points up with straight lines. Now again, it's going to be A very tedious task, but what you want to make sure is just right here. So join up with straight lines and yeah, of course. So what it should look like is something that looks like that. Obviously it should be a lot neater than what I've done. So then it says use the graph to estimate the average daily time per student in 2020. Now 2020 is going to be here. Now if I draw a sort of line, let me actually draw a proper straight line, and let's do this in a different colour. And marking out where it should be in terms of those points. A bit, I wouldn't say like a line of best fit, but roughly where it should be. But I would say somewhere along the lines of the low 70s. So I would go for answer between 70 to 78 should be fine. Now the next question 6 says work out the highest common factor of 75 and 105. So again, highest common factor is the biggest number that goes into both these two. Now again, what you want to do is do a factor tree, or you can use or write the numbers as products of their primes. Now if you've got a calculator, particularly a Casio one, if you just enter the numbers 75, press equals, then press shift and then fact, it should come up with the product of their primes. So this is 3 times 5 times 5. And if I do the same with 105, press equals, then shift and fact, so that's 3 times 5 times 7. And you will be expected to write the numbers as a product of their primes, and so just circling the common numbers. So 3 times 5, which is 15. Moving on to question 7, it says here is a graph of y equals x squared minus 7x plus 10 for the values of 0, x is equal to 0 to 7. And it says write down the roots of x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Now the roots are basically where it crosses the x-axis. As you can see, the answers to this are going to be 2 and 5. It then says write down the x-coordinate of x-ordinate, I should say, or x-coordinate should be x-ordinate of the turning point of the curve. Now the turning point is here, and I would say that that's going to be around 3. So looking at question 8, it says at a party there are 90 people, 48 are women, 42 are men, some women leave and some men arrive. The ratio of women to men is now 10 to 11. Are there now more than 90 people at the party? Tick one box, and we just need to go for this. Now in terms of how we do this, the important bits of information is that there are originally 48 women and 42 men. Some women leave and some men arrive. So what we want is we need less than 48 women, and we need more than 42 males. So if we look at the ratio, women to male, and we've got 10 to 11. Now all I need to do is write equivalent fractions to 10 to 11, because obviously when you've got people you can't have decimals, so they've always got to be integers. So what we're looking for is the first number that goes for men over 42. So here we've got 20 and 22, 30 and 33, 40 and 44, and then we've got 50 and 55. Now if I just total up these ratios, because obviously represent, we've got 21, we've got 42, we've got 63, we've got 84 and 105. Now for this, obviously we need to meet this criteria, and the only one that meets that criteria is this ratio here. So the question saying, are there more than 90 people? Well, the answer is going to be no. And again, our supporting working out is there, and then it says there are only 84 in attendance. And there we go. Moving on to question 9, it says here is a cuboid. Assume that the surface area of the cuboid is 200 centimeters squared. Work out the volume of the cuboid. So for this, what we need to do is, first of all, work out what y is. Now, in terms of the surface area of a cuboid, well, that's going to be 2 lots of this plus 2 lots of this plus 2 lots of this, and recognizing that actually that this top side is actually the same as the front view. So what we've got is we've got 2 lots of the blue, so we just write that. So we've got 25 plus 25 plus 4 lots of 5y, and that all adds up to 200. So then trying to find out what y is, I get 20y plus 50 equals 200. And then from this, what we then got is 20y equals 150. So then y equals 150 over 20, which is going to give me 7.5 centimeters. So then this length y equals 7.5 centimeters. So then the volume is going to be 5 times 7.5, which if I get that on the calculator, 7.5 times 5 times 5 gives me an answer of 187.5. Then the next question then says, if in fact the surface area of the cuboid is smaller than 200 centimeters squared, what does this mean to the volume of the cuboid? So is it smaller than part A, bigger than part A, the same, or could it be either? Now for this, the option that's going to be is that obviously if the surface area has got smaller, that means then the volume is going to be smaller, so we're looking for the top option. Next question then says, question 10 says, Alex and Bev sat 6 tests, each with 50 marks. The table shows their mean percentages after the 5 tests. After all 6 tests, their mean percentages are equal. In the 6th test, Alex scores 24 out of 50. Work out Bev's score out of 50 in the 6th test. Now this one you might be thinking, well, I'm not being given any information, but what we do know is let's work out first what the total score for each person. So for this we've got 60% of 250, because that's the total marks, and if we then work out what 60% of 250 is, so 250 multiplied by 0.6 equals 150. So Alex scored, get that back up, 150. That's after 5 tests. And Bev scored 52% of 250. So her total score in the 5 tests, with it, like if you add up all her scores, is going to be 0.52 times 250 equals 130. So in terms of this, it says that Alex scored 24 in his 6th test. So if I add 24 to this, I get 174. Now the question saying is, what do we need to add to Bev's score so that they both have the same total? So what do I have to add? So it's going to be 174, take away 130. So then Bev scored, she did pretty well. Well, they did pretty well to get 44 out of 50. With question 11, it says that a solid piece of silver has a mass of 2.625 kilograms, a volume of 250 centimeter cubed. It says work out the density of silver. Give your answer in per cubic centimeter. Grams per cubic centimeter. Now for this, what we need to do first is we notice that our mass is in kilograms, so we need to convert this into grams first. How do we do that? Well, we multiply by 1,000. So that's going to be 2625 grams. And then the volume, which is in cubic centimeters, so that's fine. And density equals mass over volume. So what I then need to do is 2625 divided by 250. And again, on the calculator, 6225 divided by 250 equals 10.5. Now for question 12, it says work out the gradient of the straight line through those 2 points. Now, when you're working out the gradient, you can try and visualize where the points are. So if I draw a set of sort of axes, so y and x, and -2, 3 is going to be somewhere here, and 1, 9 is going to be somewhere there. So I know straight away that the gradient is going to be positive. Now from this, if I know that this point here is at 9 and this point here is at 3, it means that the height of this triangle is going to be 6. And if this point here is -2 and this point here is 1, it means that the base of that triangle is going to be 3. So I'm working out the gradient. Well, that's just going to be, the gradient is going to be 6 over 3, which gives me an answer of 2. Alternatively, you can use the formula of y1 minus y2 over x2 minus x1, where this is your x1, this is your y1, this is your x2, and this is your y2, and this formula will also give you the gradient between 2 points. Moving on to question 13, it says the diagram shows a wall, and it says the area of the wall is 39.2, and it says work out the length of the wall. Now this is obviously a trapezium, and to work out the area of a trapezium, it's the two parallel sides added together, multiplied by h, the height, divided by 2, and that equals the area. So for this, let's have a look at substituting numbers in. Now two parallel sides are 2.1 and 2.8, so what we've got is 2.1 plus 2.8. Now the height is what I don't know, so I'm just going to call that h, divided by 2, and it says that that is equal to 39.2. So what I'm going to do is take the 2 over to the side by multiplying by 2. So then what I've got is I've got 4.9h equals, and 39.2 times 2 equals 78.4. And then if I divide by 4.9, I get what h is. So h equals, and let's just get that calculator back up. So 78.4 divided by 4.9 equals 16. And so the length of the wall is going to be 16. Moving on to question 14, it says a marathon takes place each year. In 2020, there were 6,500 runners. For each of the next 3 years, the number of runners will increase by 5%. Does this predict that in 2023, there will be more than 7,500 runners? And we need to show our working out. So this basically is a compound interest question. So original amount is 6,500. We need to multiply, and it's increased by 5%, so 100% plus 5% is 105, which as a decimal then becomes 1.05. So I'm going to multiply that by 1.05. Now how many years difference is there? Well, there's 3 years difference, so multiply that to the power of 3, and what I then want to do is type that into my calculator. Again, we've got 6,500 multiplied by 1.05 to the power of 3 equals, and it gives me an answer of 7,524 point, and we get 5625. So going back to the question, does this predict that there'll be more than 7,500? Well, the answer is yes, it does. For question 15, it says rearrange a equals b over c plus 5 to make c the subject. So for this, what we want to do is think about what do we need to get rid of first. So we need to get rid of the plus 5. So what I've got is, let me just do it this way. So this is the question. So I take the 5 over to the side by taking away 5. So I've got a minus 5 equals b over c. Now I want to make c the subject. So if I take c over to the side, I'm going to end up with c and then brackets a minus 5 equals b. And then I want to take this over to the other side by dividing by a minus 5 in brackets. So what I end up with is c equals b over a minus 5. So here I've got c equals b over a minus 5. And I'll put that in brackets. And there we go. Let me just make that a look like a proper a. And there we go. Moving on to question 16, it says, on a restaurant menu there are 22 main dishes, of which 4 out of 11 are gluten-free, 7 are rice dishes which are all gluten-free, and 5 naan breads which are 40% gluten-free. This meal deal is on the menu, so choose one main dish, one rice dish and one naan bread. And how many possible meal deals are totally gluten-free? So looking at this, let's have a look at the main dishes. So in terms of the mains, because just that one's mentioned first. So of the 22 dishes, 4 out of 11 are going to be gluten-free. So 4/11 of 22 equals 8. So what we've got is we've got 8 dishes are gluten-free. And we've got 14 dishes are not GF. Now, in terms of the rice dishes, so let's just have a look at rice. So it says 7 of the rice dishes. So here we've got 7 dishes are GF. And it says 5 naan, there's a choice of 5 naan breads. So in terms of the naan breads, we've got 40% of 5, which is going to give me so 0.4 times 5 gives me 2. As soon as I started entering it in, so we've got 2 naans are GF, and so therefore 3 not GF. Now, in terms of this, what we need to do is first of all work out the number of possible gluten-free meal deals that we could have. So for this, we've got 8 multiplied by 7 multiplied by 2. So all you do is just multiply the options together, in which here we've got 56 times 2. Then looking at question 17, it says the cumulative frequency graph shows information about the masses of 200 apples, and 17a asks us to estimate the median mass. So for this, what we need to do is look at the highest frequency, which is 200. So the median is going to be at 200 divided by 2, which is at 100. So what I then need to do is to draw a horizontal line from 100. And then as soon as it hits the curve, I then want to kind of project downwards, and I get an answer of around, and if I just get rid of the complete utter bodge job I've done here, I would say the answer is around about 83 is what we should have, like so there. Then question 17b says the apples with mass of 90 grams or less cost 32 pence each. Apples with a mass of more than 90 grams cost 39 pence each. Estimate the total cost of the 200 apples. So first things first, what we need to do is count how many were less than 90 grams and how many were more than 90 grams. So if we go back to the diagram, so here what we want to look at is we want to look at, and the first measurement was less than 90. So if I go up to 90 and then as soon as I hit the graph, I then project across, and I make that out to be, well, if each little box represents, one box of 5 represents 20, then each little box is going to represent 4. So I make out that that number there is 156. So that means that there are 156 apples that are less than 90 grams. So then to work out the cost, it's going to be 156 times 0.32. Now in terms of greater than 90, well, the apples are either more than 90 or the less than 90. So here it's going to be, the number is going to be 200 minus 156, which is 44. So then the cost is going to be 44 times 0.09, let's say 0.39. So if I, on my calculator, I work those out, which I'm going to do now. So 156 times 0.32 gives me an answer of £49.92. And then 44 times 0.39 gives me an answer of £17.16. And then all I need to then do is add those numbers up. So 49.92 plus 17.16, and if I just do that now, I get an estimated amount of £67.08. Then moving on to question 18, it says this shape is made from two right angle triangles and a rectangle. Work out the size of angle X. Now in terms of angle X, you can see that that forms this triangle. So in order to work out X, I need to work out what either this length here is or what this length here is going to be. Now obviously this length here is going to be the same as this length here. There's going to be equal length. So using this triangle, if I just call that A, and this is 62, this is 5, and that I'm going to call X. So then using trig, because obviously it's using angles and sides, this is my opposite, this is my adjacent, this is what theta is. So tan 62 equals X over 5. So X equals 5 times tan 62, which if you want to work out, you can do. So let's just quickly work that out. So we've got 5 tan 62 equals, and we've got 9.404. So 9.404, and that's to 3 decimal places. Now, if this length here then is 9.403, I think it was, ... we can then work out what angle X is going to be. So angle X, we've got this as being 9.404, and this length is being 12. So then labeling the triangle again, I've got H, I've got O, and I've got theta. So here I've got sine theta equals, and it's going to be 9.404 over 12. Now if you wanted to, you could, if you really want to be exact, you could use this as the exact answer. So you could use 5 tan 62 over 12 instead, or you could use any of those. Like I said, any of those, but I would say typically most people would go for number 1, but if you want to be really accurate, you can go for number 2. So then typing that all into my calculator, so I've actually got that number already there. So if I just divide that by 12, I get this number here, and so theta equals the inverse sine of 5 tan 62 over 12, or 9.404 over 12, or anything of that nature. And inverse tanning that, so inverse sine, of that number, we get an answer of 51.6. So 51.6, and that's to 1 decimal place. Let's check the rounding of that. Yes, that is what we get. So moving on to question 9, it says A and B are positive values. Show that, and then we've got this algebraic fraction that needs to simplify. So looking at the numerator, we've got 7a plus 2b minus 3a, which is going to give me 4a plus 2b. And looking at the denominator, I've got 8a plus 6b plus 2a minus b. And if I simplify that, I get 10a plus 5b. Now, one thing I notice here, so what I can do is that this whole fraction equals 4a plus 2b over 10a plus 5b. I can actually factorize the top. So I can take 2 out. So I've got 2 and then 2a plus b. And I can then factorize the bottom, which gives take out 5. So I've got 2a plus b. And what you then notice is that the 2a's plus b's cancel, which means that you'll always be ending up with 2 over 5 for all possible values of a and b. Then moving on to question 20, it says A, B, B, C, C, D, and E, E are 4 sides of a regular decagon. Work out the size of angle W. Now for this, what we need to do is, now in terms of key facts, now a decagon equals 10 sides. Now to work out the total sum of angles in a regular, well, let's have a look at in a total sum in a decagon is going to be 180 times 2, the number of sides take away 2, which is 8. So then that's going to be, getting the calculator out, 180 times 8, which equals 1440 degrees. Now, in terms of the interior angle of a regular decagon. So if all the angles are the same, that's going to be 1440 divided by 10, which is 144. So that means that this angle here is 144, this angle here is 144, and this angle here is 144. Now, what I know is in a five-sided shape, the interior angles sum is going to be 3 times 180. It's the number of sides take away 2 times 180, which is going to give me 540. But let me just double check. Yep, 540. So what I then know is that W plus 144 plus 144 plus 144 plus W adds up to 540. So then here I've got 2W plus and then 3 lots of 144. So 432 equals 540. I'm going to take away the 432. So I'm left with 2W equals, and we've got 540 minus 432 equals 108. So therefore W equals 54 degrees. Moving on to question 21, it says circle the point that is on the graph of y equals 1 over x. So again, what we need to do is do the reciprocal of the x ordinate. So again, for this one, we've got 1 over minus 1, which equals minus 1, and that doesn't give me the answer, so that is not correct. Here we've got 1 over 0.3, which is 1 over 3 over 10, 1 over 3 over 10, and that then becomes 10 over 3, which is not 3, so that's not the case. Then we've got 1 over 0.8, which is 1 over 8 over 10, which is 10 over 8, and 10 over 8 is 1.2, so that is not the case. So let's look at the last one. So we've got 1 over 2.5, which is 1 over 5 over 2, which is 2 over 5, which is 0.4, so it is the fourth option. Then question 21b, it says Leo wants to draw the graph of y equals 2 to the power x and make one criticism of the graph. So let's have a look at his values. So here we've got x and we've got y, and we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's just separate. So using the graph of y equals 2 to the power x, so this value here is going to be 2 to the power 0, which is 1. This value here is going to be 2 to the power 1, which is 2. This one here is going to be 2 to the power of 2, which is 4. 2 to the power 3, which is 8. And that's going to be 2 to the power of 4, which is 16. So looking at this, we can see straight away that when x equals 4, y should equal 16, not 15, which is what Leo has plotted. Then the other values are correct, it's just that one that is wrong. For question 22, it says one of these graphs is y equals 1 plus sine x. Circle the letter with the correct graph. Now, looking at sine x, so we've got y equals sine x. Well, that graph looks not like that, it goes like that. Now, when we've got y equals sine x plus 1, or in this case 1 plus sine x, then what we're doing is we're shifting the graph one place up. So where does this graph look like it's been shifted 1 up? Well, then that is going to be option A. Then looking at question 23, it says right angle triangle ABC is the cross section of a prism, and we've got AB equals 5, BC equals 12, M is the midpoint of CF, and AM equals 16 centimeters. And what the question is asking us is to work out the volume of the prism. Now for this, what we need to do is we need to work out what C to F is. So to work out the volume, so to find the volume, we need CF. Now if this length here is x, then this length here is going to be x as well, because obviously M is the halfway point. So it's just something that you do need to note. So looking at this, what we then need to do is work out what those lengths are. Now, in terms of this, if I start by drawing this triangle here, I can then work out, now let's look at this as stages. So in terms of this length, I've got A, B, and M. This length here is 5, and this length here is 16. So then using Pythagoras, what I've got is that this length here is going to be the square root of 16 squared minus 5 squared. And if I just quickly run that into my calculator, so square root of 16 squared minus 5 squared equals the square root of 231. Now I'm going to leave that as the square root of 231 because obviously it's not the nicest of numbers. So this length here is root 231. Now again, what I need to do is work out x. So if I take out that other triangle, which is M, C, and B, this length here is 12, and this length here is square root of 231, and this is my value of x. So to work out x, so x squared is going to be the square root of 231 squared minus 12 squared. And so x squared equals, and if I type that all in, so I've got square root of 231 and then squared, which basically the square root and square just cancel out, so it just gives me 231 minus 12 squared equals 87. So x squared equals 87, so x equals the square root of 87, which therefore means that this whole length is going to be 2 times root 87, or 2 root 87. So I'm working out the volume. Well, the volume is the area of the triangle, which is 5 times 12 over 2, multiplied by the length, which is 2 root 87. So then if I type that all into my calculator, and let's just type in as it is, so bracket fractions, we've got 5 times 12 divided by 2, and then multiplied by 2 root 87 equals, and it gives me 60 root 87. And then obviously, do we want to leave? I could leave my answer as that. I'm going to write it as a decimal. So it's 559.6. So 559.6. That's to 1 decimal place. So this here is the exact answer, or the answer in terms of inserts. But I'm just going to write it as a decimal just because I can. So moving on to question 24, it says the quadrilateral ABCD is shown, and it says work out the coordinates of C when ABCD is rotated 90 degrees clockwise about O and then translated -6, 2 on that column vector. So the first thing we want to do is rotate this shape 90 degrees clockwise. So we're going to be rotating it that way by 90 degrees. Now for this, I would strongly recommend that you use tracing paper, in which if you do that, you should find that by rotating this shape ABCD 90 degrees clockwise, that the shape then becomes, and so if you've correctly rotated it 90 degrees clockwise, you should find that the shape is here. So that there has been rotated 90 degrees about O. Now what we then need to do is we then need to do the translation. Now the translation, if we look at where point B is, which is here, and that's what we're looking for. Oh sorry, point C. So let me just get rid of B. Moved on to that. Ooh. So here, so C is here, this point here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this point 6 to the left and 2 up. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 2 up, which is here. And what's that coordinate? Well, it's -5, -2. Then looking at question 24, it says triangle PQR is shown when PQR is reflected in a line. P and R are invariant points. Now invariant points basically mean don't move. So if they don't move, then basically our reflection line is got to be actually on that line. So if a point doesn't mean, it means the reflection line is going to be on that point. So which of these represents that line that I've just drawn? Well, it's going to be y equals minus x. For question 25, it says factorize this quadratic. So let me just get rid of the cursor so we've got a bit more room. So here we've got 3x squared plus 11x minus 2. Now it's still worth 2 marks, so you either get right or you get wrong. Now I'm just going to do the magic number way, which we can do this. So here I've got magic number of minus 60. Two numbers that multiply together to equal minus 60, but added together to give me 11. Well, the numbers I'm going to have here are going to be 12 and 5, no, not 12 and 5. We've got 15 and 4, which seems the more logical option. So here I've got 15 and 4. And because we've got plus 11, it's going to be minus 15 and minus 4. So from this, what I've got is I've got 3x squared plus 15x minus 4x minus 20. Then I want to factorize the pairs, so I get 3 and then x plus 5 minus 4x plus 5. So then, oh, that should be an x there, and that's correct. So we get 3x, and then my two brackets are going to be 3x minus 4 and x plus 5. Then moving on to question 26, it says that Edith van can safely carry a maximum load of 920 kilograms. She wants to use her van to carry 30 sacks of potatoes, each of a mass of 25 kilograms to the nearest kilogram, and 20 sacks of carrots, each to a mass of 7.5 kilograms to 1 decimal point. Can she definitely use her van safely to carry in one journey? So let's have a look at what we've got. So in terms of the potatoes, what we want to do is we want to look at the bounds of these. Now we can see that it's been rounded to the nearest kilogram, so it's going to be plus or minus 0.5 kgs. So if we look at the maximum load, so what we've got is we're going to have 30. So let's have a look at what the limit's going to be first. So it's going to be 25, so 24.5 and 25.5. So we'll take 25.5. So the maximum amount of potatoes in total is going to be 25.5 times 30, which if I then work it out on my calculator, so 30 times 25.5 gives me an answer of 765. 765 G. Then if I then look at the carrots, maybe I should have done the carrots in orange, but here we've got to the nearest 1 decimal place. So here we're looking at 0.1. So here we've got plus or minus 0.1 over 2, which is 0.05. So then in terms of this, my upper and lower bounds is going to be 7.45 to 7.55. And so again, we're going to take our upper limit of this and multiply it by the number of sacks. So we've got 20 times 7.55. And again, if I type that into my calculator, 20 times 7.55 equals 151 kilograms. And then what I then need to do is add those two amounts up. So I've got 765 plus 151, which equals 765, 916. So the question is, with a maximum load of 920, can she safely carry it on? And the question is yes, with 4 kilograms to spare. See if you can get some turnips. So looking at question 27, it says that there are 20 discs in a bag and we've got 11s, 22s, 33s and 44s. Now the question is asking 2 of the discs are chosen at random and we want to work out the probability that the first disc has a smaller number than the second disc. Now there's several ways in which you can do this. You can do a probability tree to represent this, but I would say maybe the best way of doing this is a sample space diagram. So if we start by having 11, 22, 33 and 44. And we've got 11, 22, 33 and 44. And if I just rather bodily draw this grid, and this is the first choice, and this is the second choice. Now in terms of viable options, I want the first disk to be smaller than the second disk. Now if I go for these, I don't need any of these because they're going to be the same. Now the ones that are going to be smaller are basically not going to be any of those. So the ones with green crosses are ones that aren't viable. So we're looking for either this one here, that one, that one, that one, that one, or that one. Now if I just label these ones as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and let's just work out each of those individual probabilities. So number 1 is 11 first, so that's going to be 4 out of 20 plus, and then it's going to be the number 22, so it's going to be 6, but it's going to be out of 19 because I've already selected 1. Then it then says number 2, so this time we're going for 11s first, so it's going to be 4 out of 20 plus 33 second, which is 7 over 19. Then for number 3, that's going to be 22 first, so that's 6 out of 20 times, actually these should all be times, not plus, and 33 is going to be 7 over 19. And then with number 4, well, that's going to be 11 first, so that's 4 out of 20 times 44, which is 3 out of 19. And then number 5 is 22 first, which is 6 out of 20, multiplied by 44, which is 3 out of 19. And then finally option 6, which is 33 first, which is 7 over 20, and 44 followed by 44, which is 3 over 19. So then if I then work out what each of these probabilities are, just get the calculator out, let's just do 19 times 20 first, which is 380. So all of these are over 380. And then all I then need to do is multiply the numerators together. So I've got 24, 28, 42, 12, 18, and 21. And then what I then need to do is add all of these fractions up. Now, because the denominators are all the same, all I've got to do is just simply add the numerators together. So I've got 24 plus 28 plus 42 plus 12 plus 18 plus 21, and that gives me a total of 145. So then the answer is going to be 145 over 380, which is going to simplify, and I'll just let my calculator do that for me, and it simplifies to give me 29 over 76. And there is my final answer. Then looking at question 28, it says the horse runs in a field. The speed time graph represents the first 12 seconds of the run. After how many seconds had the horse run a distance of 75 meters? Now the key thing to remember is in the speed time graph, that distance is the area under the graph. So what I need to do first, if I just split this first section in the first 4 seconds, should I say, I need to work out the area of this. Now to work out the area of this, that's going to be 4 times 10 divided by 2, which is 20. So this represents 20 meters. So what I'm then needing is 75 take away 20, which is 55. Now if I imagine that each of these rows is going to be 10 meters, because again it's 1 times 10, so that's 10 meters, that's 10 meters, that's 10 meters. What I'm needing is 55 of these, so that's 10, that's 10. I'm needing half of those, and that's 5. So the time is going to be 9.5 seconds. Then moving on to our last question, which is looking at algebraic fraction. And the question is asking me to solve this algebraic fraction. So let me start by making it a little bit bigger for us to see. Now because I've got fraction equals a fraction, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross multiply. So what I've got is I've got 5 lots of x squared plus 3 equals 1 there, and we've got 2x and then 4x plus 1. Now, it doesn't really matter which one you've got in brackets because it all means the same. So expanding it out, I get 5x squared plus 15 equals 8x squared plus 2x. Then if I take all of this to the side, the left hand side to the right hand side, just so that I'm keeping x squared positive, I get 3x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Now, because it's asking me to give my answer to 3 sig fig, I'm going to assume that this is not going to factorise. So I need to use the quadratic formula. So a equals 3, b equals 2, and c equals minus 15. So then looking at this, I get x equals, and it's going to be minus b, which is minus 2, plus minus 2 squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. Now again, simplifying this using my brain, I get 4 minus, and then 4 times 3, which is 12, times 15. Just check, so 12 times minus 15 equals minus 180. All over 6. So that becomes minus 2 plus minus, and then we've got root 184 over 6. So that's what I want to type into my calculator. So then looking at this, if I type just that, so starting off with the minus, I get minus 2 minus root 184, 80 over 6. So one of my answers is minus 2.54, so minus 2.59, or, I know that's not the number I read out, but there you go. And again, if I just, rather than typing it in, I just change that minus to a plus, and I get 1.93. And those answers are all to 2 decimal places, or actually 3 sig fig, which is what it wanted me to do, to 3SF. And there we go. Now we'll put the grade boundaries in the description below for you to see what mark you would have got, or what grade you would have got when you've marked your paper.